Looking for the inside scoop on Broadway's biggest shows and stars? Well, you have come to the right place. It's The Broadway Show. I'm Tamsen Fidel.
I began to believe that I had fallen into my own romantic comedy.
Let's talk about Left on 10th. The new play by Delia Ephron is a romantic comedy about second chances in life and in love. The new play, based on Ephron's memoir, stars Peter Gallagher and Juliana Margulies, who's returning to Broadway for the first time in 18 years. We had a chance to chat. I'm curious, what did you think when you first got hold of this play? Because it just seems like you see a story like this and you go, I have to.
Well, I had a little bit of a history with Delia and her memoir, Left on 10th, because we had sort of a meet cute moment when our dogs were sniffing each other on 10th Street.
Oh, wow.
We live in the same neighborhood. And I had just written a book that had come out, but it was still during the pandemic, so I wasn't able to do a book tour. And this lady with her dog looked up and saw it was me, and she said, "I loved your book." And I said, "Thank you so much for reading it."
Right.
And then she took her mask down and she said, "My name's Delia Ephron." So that's how I met her.
Wow.
And she said,
Wow.
"I actually have a memoir coming out. Can I drop it off with your doorman?" And I said, "Oh my God." And so she put her email and her phone number, and we started a friendship. You know, went out to dinner with her husband, my husband, and we have a lot of friends in common. And then I guess 3 years later, she emailed me and said, "I wrote my memoir into a play. I would love it if you would play me."
Wow.
It was just timing, and also I find her story so hopeful and magical and beautiful. And then when Peter Gallagher and Susan Stroman, like it just all came together in this just beautiful melting pot of joy and kindness, and at such a great time in my life, and I think a great time for the world. And the idea that, you know, just because we get older doesn't mean we're done.
Yes.
In some cases, it means we've just begun. And that's their story. And it's really a story for everyone.
I love the relationship that you had before with her, because I think that probably means, does that put more pressure on you when you're there on stage, or do you just feel her because you know her so well now? It's a little bit different.
It doesn't anymore. In the beginning it did, because I felt so passionate about her memoir when I read it. I was so impressed where she went with it. She was so raw and vulnerable and truthful in that memoir. It was quite breathtaking to read it. And so I said to her when she sent me the play, and I read it right away, within an hour, and it had all the emotions I went through as a reader just reading her memoir. And I said, "Delia, I love you so much, and this play is so important that let's do a reading of it first to make sure I'm the girl for you."
Wow.
And there's no ego attached.
Yeah.
This has to be done right, because it's such an important story. From so many different perspectives, from the medical world. I mean, we have so many transplant patients every night. We have doctors, we have surgeons. I mean, one night, the entire Weill Cornell Medical Hospital has bought out the entire evening.
Oh, wow.
In November, I think it will be. This is giving hope to transplant patients. It's giving hope to caregivers. It's giving hope to parents, to children, right? Because
That's a different level.
At all different levels. And then on top of it is this idea of second chances of love when you've lost a spouse.
I wanted to ask you this about rom-com, because it's not really a rom-com.
Correct.
Right?
It is, in
It
that
is,
there's
and it's
so
not.
much romantic comedy in it. But there is this moment in the play where my character Delia is just, it's called graft versus host disease, which what happens is when you get the stem cell transplant, your body is fighting it. And graft versus host, meaning the host, your body is taking in what they're putting in and fighting it. And it's brutal. And she begs Peter to let her go. She was in the hospital 100 days and he never left her side. Everything we're doing on stage is is true. And she begs him to let her go. And he just looks at her and he says, "No." And it is an incredibly emotional scene. I tear up talking about it because it's just such a beautiful human moment when you have someone fighting for you and saying, actually, it's not your time yet. we have more time on this planet together. And then she makes it. And it's this overwhelming joy. So yes, it's a romantic comedy. Bring tissues,
Yes.
I would say, because there are moments where you're going to cry out of joy, fear, love.
And you're going to see something, I assume, if you've gone through any type of loss, if you've gone through
It
any
connects to everybody. sitting
everybody
there.
somehow.
Everybody.
No matter what it is.
Yeah, and you really feel that universal connection in a theater, and it's what I've missed so much.
Emmy and Golden Globe winner Darren Criss back on Broadway in Maybe Happy Ending. It's a new musical about two lonely robots in South Korea and a chance encounter that leads to friendship and maybe more.
Let's send it out to Paul Wontorek.
Welcome back to Broadway.
Thank you. Welcome back to So-and-So at the Romer Hotel.
Yes, this is like a hot new piano
New
bar
spot.
spot. This is a musical that was, I believe, conceived in Brooklyn, premiered in South Korea.
Yeah.
Right? And became sort of a sensation in
Yeah.
South Korea. And now it is arriving on Broadway with this sort of great love in another country. People here don't necessarily know it.
I find myself losing my way with words at the end of the day when I come home after rehearsal, just trying to express how excited I am about this show. For all intents and purposes, this is the new kind of going forward seminal version that I hope can, last in perpetuity, for the ages. Because I do feel like this is a timeless piece.
Let's talk about what it's about. I have a drawer in my house. And when I open this drawer, I have some of my old iPhones in there. Old versions of my iPhones, right? A little bigger, a little thicker, a little slower. I don't use them anymore. They're just kind of sitting
And you
there.
have this weird emotional attachment to
right?
them beyond.
And that's kind of what we're dealing with
That
here.
is exactly. I'm glad I've actually used this comparison. So there's what the show's story is and what the show is about. So we'll put a pin in that iPhone experience. The story is about
helper bots.
Helper bots. 100 years in the future, it's exactly what it sounds like. They are robots who are helpers. They're somewhere between, a helper, a servant of some kind, a pet, and a child. It's a mix of all those three things depending on how their owners treated them. But at this point, even 100 years in the future, this Model 3 and this Model 5 are obsolete. They're earlier models in a world of Model 20s or something.
And like living in a building where
Yes, much like
old helper
a
bots.
retirement home,
Right.
because in the way that your drawer is
My
the
drawer.
current retirement building for your iPhone, which for reasons beyond our understanding, we ascribe these emotions to our thing. I mean, they're like appendages, at this point. So the story is these two obsolete helper bots kind of hatch this plan to get in contact with the former owner. That's the plot.
Yeah.
The very neat and tidy 90 to 100 minute story. What it's about is about shelf life and our battery life, and one can't help but immediately notice the parallels between computers and technology and our own existence, the brains of a computer, the way that we are programmed, the way that we program them, making people and things in our likeness, in our image, and in our example, and being keenly aware of our battery life.
It's a return to the jazz age. The Great Gatsby is now on Broadway. Let's go ahead and send it out to Beth Stevens.
Thanks, Tamsin. After spending years on the small screen, Sarah Chase was preparing to return to Broadway in The Great Gatsby. That's when she faced a daunting and unexpected personal challenge. I sat down with her as she shared her story publicly for the first time. I want to ask you how you first started to be a performer.
My mother signed me up for the summer camp musical without telling me. So I did that as an activity. They gave me 3 lines. It got a laugh, and I've been chasing that ever since.
And when did you think this should be my career?
Actually, I knew when I saw my first Broadway show that I had to do that, which was Meet Me in St. Louis.
Which didn't last that long, did it?
No. So, but there was a little girl in there, Tootie, so I knew that that was something that I could do. And I've been obsessed ever since.
What do you love about playing Myrtle?
I love that she gets to be the comedic relief, at least in Act 1, and have fun. I have such a blast in Act 1. Act 2 obviously gets very serious, but she's a good time, and I love her wig and her costumes.
And you are kind of known as being a comedic actress. You have a lot of comedy chops. Tell me about that.
Comedy is, musical theater and comedy are tied for my two loves. And then I get to do both in this, but yeah, most of my training is from Upright Citizens Brigade, Amy Poehler's theater, and most of my resume is things like Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt and The Simpsons, and I just love making people laugh. I love comedy.
Okay, we're going to turn from comedy to something a little more serious, which is you found out some staggering news while this transition was happening to Broadway.
I have the BRCA gene, which predisposes you to having either breast or ovarian cancer, and I have a family history of it. So right before rehearsal started, a couple weeks, I had my fallopian tubes out preventatively because I thought if I didn't get it done now, it would be a year before Gatsby was over and I couldn't get it done. And I thought that would be it. And then the second week of rehearsal, my doctor called me, and I remember I was listening to All in the Family because our dialect coach said, you should listen to Edith Bunker. That's the accent you should have. And I just chose a random episode, and Edith was talking about if she had cancer, would Archie still love her or something like that. And I was like, that's weird. Then my phone rings, and it's my phone rings and the doctor says, are you alone? I said, yes, why? He's like, are you sitting down? I said, you know, that's not going to be good. So he was like, we found cancer in the fallopian tubes. So obviously the first thing you want to know is like, what's the prognosis? Is it like good? Is it bad? He was like, it's very, very early. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to get another surgery. You're going to get your ovaries out. You're going to have a hysterectomy, and then you have to have chemo for 6 rounds. And then of course my second question was, can I still do Gatsby? He and the other doctors really were so good about working with me and my schedule. We got out a calendar and we just sort of tried to make it work.
How did you process that in terms of your career?
I made the decision for some reason not to tell anybody in the creative team or management, but I did tell Eva and Sam and Jeremy and Noah, the principal cast, and John, because we had gotten so close at the paper mill that it would be weird to hide something like that from them. And of course they were so unbelievably supportive. And I felt like I didn't have to be in that rehearsal room with this. I was carrying a giant secret, but at least they knew that. I don't enter till scene 5, so I wasn't needed for the first 3 days of tech rehearsals. So we scheduled the surgery on the first day of tech. I recovered for 3 days, and on the 4th day, I went back to the theater. And no one knew except the stage manager and the assistant costume designer, because I had to explain why I was a little more expanded.
Wow, that's a lot to process, a lot going on in your life during that time.
Yeah.
What kept you going? What made you feel like you could get back to work?
I wanted to be on Broadway again, and I love this role, and I didn't see any reason why I couldn't do both. And I think it was just, I took it marker by marker. So, it was like, okay, get through tech, get through the first preview, get to opening, get to the cast recording. And every time I had something else to look forward to. One of the first things when my doctor told me the diagnosis, I said is, I promise you, if I get through this, I will speak about it. In my opinion, if you know what you can do to help yourself, you should do it. And if I have to be a warning to people, I hope me telling my story will help other people not have to go through this.
More than 3 years since winning the Tony Award for Best Musical, Moulin Rouge remains one of Broadway's hottest tickets.
Now here's another exclusive musical performance from the Broadway.com studio.
Hi, I'm Soleil Pfeiffer.
And I am John Cardozo.
And we are in Moulin Rouge, the musical on Broadway.
And this is Come What May. Never knew I could feel like this, like I've never seen the sky before. I want to vanish inside your kiss. Every day I love you more and more. Listen to my heart, can you hear it sing? Telling me to give you everything. Seasons may change, winter to spring, but I love you until the end of time. Come what may, come what may, I will love you until my dying day.
Suddenly the world seems such a perfect place. Suddenly it moves with such a perfect grace.
Suddenly my life doesn't seem such a waste. It all revolves.
Wicked Part 1 is the all-time highest grossing movie based on a Broadway musical, and that means the Broadway show and tour are just as popular now as ever before. So let's head out to the theater for a backstage tour.
My name is Jake Pedersen. I play Bach in Wicked on Broadway, and I'm going to take you around the Gershwin today and see a little bit of where I go every day. All right, well, welcome to what we call the Alumni Stairwell. It's full of alumni names who have been in the show in the past, from the beginning all the way to the present moment. So if you're in the show, you eventually, when you do depart from it, we have the graduating year of Shiz that you were here and when you left, and you get your name on this wall. Here we are in the hair and makeup room. If you had to say what one of your favorite things were that you do here in the show, what would that be?
Painting masks.
Whoa.
I'm pretty proud of Dillerman, to be honest. He's pretty sick. Look at this.
Wow.
Yeah.
So here we are, backstage left. If you see, the stage is not actually an even floor. It's called what we call a rake stage. So I was actually on the tour of Wicked for 9 months, and while the show is very similar and obviously the same show, the one big difference here in New York is that it's on a raked stage. So now we've come to the time of my dressing room that I share with Bill. This is my little space with my wig, my makeup, my hair dryer. My little space here is fun moment. I like to surround my space with things that make me feel happy and love, right? So my pictures of my partner and my friends. This little rug moment is made by my partner. He's like a rug tufter on the side. That's his hobby. But yes, this is a little me corner, which is fun. All right, well, that's it for now. Thank you for joining me on this little tour of the Gershwin Theater here at Wicked. It's about that time for me to start getting ready for the show. So come on down and see us at the Gershwin Theater. But until then, I'll see you later.
These are the moments that make life worth living. Death Becomes Her is on Broadway, and it's to die for. It's our new vlog over at Broadway.com, hosted by Josh Lehman. Here's a preview of what's going on so far.
Sir Brock and I are about to perform an original song for Miss Michelle Williams.
Okay.
Okay, so we wrote you a special song because, girl, you're the most special thing that has ever happened to either of us. Walking up and down these stairs in a hoodie, which you know is mine. You better keep it on, cause baby, you're my Valentine. Every time I see you, girl, my heart, it turns to mush. Nobody tell Michelle that she's my secret crush. Hush, hush, don't nobody tell about my secret crush. Hush, hush, when I saw you I fell. I got my secret crush, now I am forever under your spell, secret crush. Hush, hush, don't nobody tell
first few episodes are live right now over at Broadway.com with more on the way. And that's going to do it for us. But for tickets, or if you want to check out extended cuts of all these interviews, head over to Broadway.com. I'm Tamsin Fidel, and this is The Broadway Show.